Welcome into the Fantasy Guides podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher, and I am joined today by the owner, the operator of Fantasy Guides, Stephen Rippey, fellow Fantasy Guides contributor, Jacob Rhodes, and the great comeback of the honorable judge, Cover Zero himself, Casey Rippey. We're all here together to make something momentous happen today, and we're all excited for it. And I'm going to apologize in advance whenever you were hearing some massive explosions outside my window on this fine July 3rd, because of course people have to start shooting off fireworks early. It's kind of ridiculous that we, it should just be push the 4th to the weekend so we can all have that magical time with that. But anyway,
I agree. We're
excited to be here, and we're going to do a little explain your rank wide receiver edition on the show. And we're going to dive right into it. Essentially, it is what it sounds like. We have been going through our ranks. We've been working so hard on these, and blood, sweat, and tears go into them. And now we're going to take a moment to completely blast each other on the internet and make fun of each other and make each other feel bad. And no one does a better job of that than Casey. So we brought Casey on as we debate back and forth, having two plaintiffs, one defendant solely trying to stop us from yelling at him. And then Casey, of course, is going to very fairly, even though I slipped him a 20, is going to very fairly rule over us. Judge Casey, are you prepared to preside over this ruling?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I'm here to disappoint people and to insult them. You're a nerd and you have a square head. Go ahead.
Excellent. Excellent. He's a little brother, so he's absolutely ready to tear.
Got a lot of anger.
A lot of anger.
That's why he became a judge.
This is his therapy.
So we got 3 wide receivers that we're going to start diving through. One of us, each, myself, Stephen, and Jacob, have ranked either too high or too low comparatively to the others, or maybe to ADP, and they're going to have to defend themselves. And again, Casey will have the final ruling. And the first person I wanted to attack is, Casey's older brother, which I'm sure will, I don't know how this will go. Casey will, of course, rule fairly.
Of course.
Stephen, you have one Mr. Keenan Allen, the old guy moving to a new team, to the Chicago Bears, and wide receiver 23, the old man. And underdog ADP I have up there on the screen for those watching on YouTube at wide receiver 33, but Stephen has him at wide receiver 23, Jacob at wide receiver 33, right in line at ADP, and I myself a little lower at wide receiver 37. Stephen, I'll let you take it first. Defend yourself. Why are you so high on Keenan Allen?
I may need to move him up even higher because, as you know, we do a consensus ranking, the 3 of us, and that's how we build our draft guide. And you guys are so horrifically low on him that I'm having to rank. I need to rank him as like the wide receiver 4 just to balance out the
order.
Sorry. Oh, just to make sure everyone knows that terrible sound is not something in a can exploding. That is Casey's gavel.
Yeah. And it'll get louder the more ridiculous the statement from my brother is.
It already started hot, so Stephen, keep going.
I don't want to rank him that high, Judge, but these guys leave me no option because they're ranking him so low that the average is coming out too far down. I'm having to try to overcorrect for it. But let me, if I may, let me speak to the case for Keenan Allen, and at the very least being the wide receiver 23. I may move him up after this argument because my argument I feel is so good. Keenan Allen, the 6'3" power slot that Casey, I believe you termed the coin, the phrase, Judge.
He's already sucking up.
Yeah, no kidding. I definitely didn't.
Andrew and Jacob are worried about his age, new competition for targets in Chicago,
objection,
and
overruled,
and a rookie quarterback throwing him the football. A guy who has been one of the best route runners over the past decade. One of the best at knowing where to be in the zone. 17 point per game career average. A near 70% catch rate over his career. And you guys want to rank this fine wide receiver specimen as the wide receiver 33 and 37 in your rankings. Casey, let that sit in for a minute. You should both be ashamed of yourselves. You should be ashamed to wear the FG badge. You obviously didn't learn your lesson from Mike Evans and the debacle of 2023 when you also thought he was too old. Said he would not do as well as receivers like Christian Watson.
Objection. Keenan Allen's much older.
Sustained.
Keenan Allen, who at age 31 had his best fantasy season on a points per game basis. The wide receiver 3 in points per game, mind you. The second most yards of his career with 1,243, and the second most touchdowns of his career with 7. The most catches of his career with 108. All, mind you, despite missing 4 games. Let me repeat that, Casey. Keenan Allen caught 108 passes, and he missed 4 games. You two mock me for ranking him as the wide receiver 23. Shame on you. Now, let me ask you, Judge Casey, does that sound like a man who's about to hit a drastic decline and be the wide receiver 33 or the wide receiver 37, according to Andrew? Don't answer.
I'd like to tell him what to do.
Hey. I make the rules around here.
I'd like to pull from history the story of another wide receiver, if I may. A wide receiver who at the age of 32 found himself with some tough competition. A wide receiver who was also being drafted in fantasy as the second wide receiver on his own team. In fact, he was going as the wide receiver 35, exactly right between where you two have Keenan Allen ranked. This wide receiver was asked to also play the power slot role, although that term did not exist at the time. And he did not have the number one, dare I say, generational quarterback throwing to him, but instead a dusty old vet on his third team. That wide receiver went on to mock the fantasy industry who turned their backs on him, the ones who said, gross, he's too old. And despite his teammate going for over 1,000 yards, that wide receiver went on to reel in a career-high 109 receptions for 1,215 yards and 9 touchdowns. His 281 PPR points netted him a wide receiver 7 finish. Oh, but it didn't end there. Oh, no. At age 33, he went on to catch 107 balls and a wide receiver 11 finish, followed by 109 again the year after at age 34 and a wide receiver 4 finish.
Who was this guy's quarterback? He had to have been someone pretty good, I'd reckon.
Well, I'm actually finished now. So if you'd like to guess the name of this 6'3", similar sized wide receiver, go ahead.
Larry Fitzgerald.
That is correct, Andrew.
Yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald, the player nobody wanted back in 2015, who had Carson Palmer, the dusty old has-been who'd played for the Bengals, got shipped out of town for Andy Dalton, played for the Raiders, got shipped out again. So I ask, were you worried about a decline at age 31? Is the difference in 31 and 32 that drastic? I rest my case.
Jacob, please start.
I'm gonna have such a hard time keeping this family friendly, Casey. So please stop me if you see my vein popping too hard. So Carson Palmer was good for fantasy, and I love Keenan Allen. I don't think he's on the level of Larry Fitzgerald. We'll stop that there.
I will give you that. He's not Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
But I'm also not projecting a wide receiver 4 finish.
Stephen, I believe you said you rest your case. And I don't believe there was a question from the defendant, Jacob. So if you could please keep to the rules of this courtroom that I created that you haven't seen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jacob.
So I'm glad you brought up his stats from last year because I think they were very good. I also think his quarterback was better at passing the ball than what he's going to be dealing with in Chicago. And more importantly, the pass rate in Chicago is not going to be what it had been in LA his long time there with his lovely quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert. So they do get a new offensive coordinator in Chicago, and they do get a new quarterback. So it should be better than the 31 and 32 pass rate finishes the past 2 years from Chicago. They were right there at the bottom of the league. But Waldron comes in 5th last year, 13 the year prior, 20th in his first year as the OC. And with Chicago kind of being at that bottom, I think it's fair they'll meet somewhere in the middle. So a sharp decline from where he's been top 5 pass rate team for the Chargers the past 3-4 years. So less passing volume. And he's also joining a team who has a wide receiver that just had his best statistical season in DJ Moore, who garnered a 30% target share, was last year's wide receiver 6, and is just he's playing in his prime. He's at the top of his game. Not to mention they drafted a guy top 10 who's one of the better prospects we've seen at wide receiver in a little while. Yeah, I think he'd be right up there with where kind of JSN was at last year. So you got a lot of target competition. You've got a new quarterback. You've got a new offensive coordinator. You've got a lot poorer weather in Chicago than what he's been used to dealing with. And I think it's just a lot working against him. And I didn't even mention his age. You're welcome. I'll pass the ball to Andrew.
I'm going to address it this way. Something that I'm sure our honorable judge, Casey, would understand. All right. Thank you.
Trying to persuade.
Oh, absolutely. And just you wait until I get to my point. Casey, honorable judge, would you rather have 1,106 cookies or 995 cookies?
What kind of cookies are they?
Ooh, okay, they're the Chips Ahoy, but not the crunchy, the nice chewy that comes in a red package.
Now, am I living in a fantasy world where they don't have any like health consequences if I eat them?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. It's fantasy football.
Okay, yeah, then I'll take the 101.
Okay, you'll take the one with significantly more. And to Jacob's point, the Seattle Seahawks ran the least amount of plays last year. Jacob, who was the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator last year?
Oh, that would be the guy that I mentioned, Shane Waldron.
Oh, the one who's currently playing. So it's not just low; it is the lowest in the NFL. And I guess the team must have been terrible. The Seahawks. Geno Smith, not a bad quarterback, top 10 in my opinion, at least top 15. We also had DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Tyler Lockett. Oh, Noah Fant wasn't too bad. Oh, they had Kenneth Walker. Hey, that's a pretty good sounding offense. They ran the least amount of plays. So no, I'm not even going to hear like, oh, well, this is a different situation. Oh, they have better players. No, it's a rookie quarterback. You're not going to want to put more on the young man. So that's Shane Waldron. He likes to take his time, walk up to the line, and run some plays. And to go into the depth charts of the competition Keenan Allen's now facing, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, Austin Eckler was the third leading receiver on the team, and Austin Eckler looked like he couldn't even make it all the way down the field without needing some oxygen. Steven, just I know you're projecting here. You're getting a little up there in age, and you just want to feel like you're never going to be run down. But I saw you at the Expo last year. I know for a fact the age gets to you, Steven. I know it'll get to us all. And sometimes you just got to let the young guns like Rome Odunze potentially be the second weapon in that offense. I do not imagine a world where Keenan Allen has more than a 22% target share. He will not approach being a wide receiver 2 for a rookie who we'd be shocked through for 25 passing touchdowns considering he's a rookie. I rest my case. Last chance at a rebuttal, Steven. Last chance at a rebuttal.
Hey, who's the power slot in Seattle? Who's playing that role that you like that Keenan's playing?
They don't have a Keenan Allen.
Answer the question.
It's JSN.
It probably is JSN.
It was JSN. How was JSN in fantasy football last year, Steven?
Wide receiver 48.
I should lower him in my rankings.
Here's what I'm trying to teach these young men is they look at the data a little too much, in my opinion, and they don't just realize it's Keenan.
I'm remembering forever
Allen.
that you said that.
It's Keenan Allen. And don't give me, these stats that he had last year in his competition. Keenan Allen has done it his entire career, no matter who's been there. He's always been a stud. He's always been an alpha wide receiver, garnishing like a near 30% target share every year. So this isn't somebody that just had one fluke season. This is a guy that's always been an alpha wide receiver. And if you think just because he's got a rookie quarterback, a new situation, and another good wide receiver, or another couple good wide receivers there, that he's not going to still demand a high target share, I think you're wrong. I think that, yes, I'm not projecting him to finish top 10 anymore, but I think you guys are going to look silly and foolish ranking him that low when this season comes to an end. Because, again, sometimes you just got to go with the player who has got it done his entire career. To me, the situation, unless you think he's going to completely fall off a continental shelf this season, I just don't see how he could completely flop the way you guys are projecting.
Honest question, do you think he's better than DJ Moore?
I think his peak career, yes, he's been better than DJ Moore right now.
Next season.
Next season, I think it's maybe a 1A, 1B. DJ Moore 1A, I'd say. Probably. He's probably a little bit behind DJ Moore. I just don't think Keenan Allen he doesn't rely on the kind of stuff. He's not like Tyreek Hill, who's going to rely on a lot of speed to get open. He's just a finesse player that can get it done. I mean, we've seen players like him. Julian Edelman played until he was 36. He was pretty good at,
I do think Keenan will be around for a long time. He is one of the best route runners in the league still. He's a fantastic receiver. I just think there's a lot working against him in Chicago.
I think, and I've been guilty of this too, guys. I looked at the situation with A.J. Brown a few years ago, thought it would be too difficult for him with Devonta Smith and with Dallas Goedert and a rushing quarterback and an offense that didn't run a lot of plays. And he destroyed it. And we were wrong again last year with DJ Moore going to a new situation with a quarterback that ran a lot and they didn't run a lot of plays. And they didn't pass a lot. And we were completely wrong there. I don't want to keep making that mistake with some of these guys when they switch teams. I mean, Stephon Diggs, when he went to Buffalo, it was a lot of like, oh God, now we're going to Buffalo, a team that doesn't pass very much and runs slow offense. And then they didn't with him. So I think we might be projecting too much of what we think is going to happen based on what happened in Seattle.
Those guys all were instantly the alphas on those teams. I don't think Keenan's the number one in Chicago.
I will have to agree with Jacob and say that but I will say that there is upside. And that's the only reason I have him. I've considered putting him higher. I mean, and why I don't have him even lower is that there is the upside that DJ Moore gets hurt or that DJ Moore takes a step back or that Keenan Allen does become the wide receiver one and we see Caleb go nuclear. It must be noted. However, we need to come around to a final verdict. Mr. Cover Zero, Mr. Casey Rippey, honorable judge, are you deciding to side with the two incredibly handsome, young, intelligent plaintiffs or your older brother?
I noticed you didn't insult him, which I'm disappointed in. He's old and ugly is what you should have said.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Stephen, I was leaning towards voting your way, but then you decided to use the word garnish instead of garner. And that
He's
really
illiterate.
Tarnished your argument. You can't even pick the right words. You're supposed to be picking the right rankings.
No, listen, when I do my rankings, I'm in, a quiet place. I'm not put on the spot. When you get me on a microphone, like I can't control what comes out,
Steven,
especially words.
I don't know if you know this, but when you have a garnish on the dish, it's the one that doesn't get eaten. It's not the one that feeds you. So if he's a garnish, I don't want any part of that garnish.
You know what? I also just remember, I think I also screwed it up. Carson Palmer went to Arizona. No, he did play. Okay, never mind. I got that one.
Come on, man.
Now he's doubting himself. Look at that.
Yeah.
Well, I did. I was like, what did I say? I had to go back and see what I said. Okay.
All right, listen. I like if he's sitting there at 30, that's where I want him. I want him right around his age. 33 is too old. 23 is too young. So I don't really side with either, but I think 30 is closer to 33. So Jacob, you're winning this one.
Nice. Look at that.
Bang the gavel.
I can't wait. We're doing like $100 board bet. None of this $5 stuff. We're doing $100 board bet.
I'm game.
I'll get some a piece of that. Maybe not all that. I have a kid on the way, but I am in on some action. Alrighty. Now it's time to Stephen. I really think we got off on the wrong foot there. I really think we can get along here. All right. And tear into our friend Jacob here. He's got a guy.
Ugh.
That he is head over heels for. I mean, he saw this man and his eyes went wide open and he is in love. And Jacob, for the audience, real quick, please tell the jury, where are you currently located? What city?
I'm located in Ohio, but if you look behind me, those are Notre Dame posters, and I've got a Notre Dame shirt on, and I just thumbs up. But yeah, don't give me the Ohio crap. I do like the Browns, but my bias...
Oh, he said Ohio and the Browns. Oh, Mr. Amari Cooper, wide receiver for those Cleveland Browns, as you can see there. Steven has him ranked at a cool wide receiver 26. Mm-hmm. I have him ranked at a cool wide receiver 28. And heck, those are both even ahead of his underdog ADP, that's you guys. Jacob's coming after you guys and saying you're not ranking him high enough. As an underdog, he's on wide receiver 29. Jacob, why are you being such a homer here? Defend yourself.
I'm not being a homer. Amari Cooper is a good wide receiver. I can say a lot of the same things about Cooper that Steve was just saying about Keenan, except his situation is just a little bit better. Less target competition there. So Amari Cooper, according to PFF's SOS metrics, so strength of schedule, they have the easiest schedule this year for wide receivers. So Amari Cooper's got a lot going for him there. He's been in the league 9 years and has only had 2 seasons where he's finished outside the top 20, which you guys have him, ranked outside of. That would be out of the norm for him to come into this year and not do better than that. He was the wide receiver 10 and 20 as a Brown so far. His 2 years as a Brown, top 20 both years, top 10 one of those years. And with Deshaun Watson, hopefully healthy. We have a sample size last year. It's not a big one. It's a small one. It's only 5 games, but it's what we have to work with because, Watson just hasn't played a lot of games. But in those 5 games, Cooper averaged 96 receiving yards, 17.6 points per game, 8.2 targets, and over a full season, he would have ranked 4th, 5th, and 10th in yards per game, receiving, yards per route run, and fantasy points per route run. Those are all great metrics to be top 10 in, all stuff he would have done over the course of a season. And look, I'm glad you guys have him ranked above ADP. I think that's the more egregious thing here. I don't want to come right at your guys' throats. I think wide receiver 29 is just absolutely absurd. I do have him ranked higher, but I'm a believer in the talent. I think the touchdowns come higher than the 5 that they were last year and get closer to that 8 to 9 that he averages on a season. He's shown that he can be a top 10 receiver in Cleveland. He does not miss games. He's missed 2 games at most in any given year over the course of his career. He's a durable guy. He's going to be on the field. He's going to play, and he's going to put up fantasy points. Like I said, those 9 years he's been in, he hasn't been lower than wide receiver 20. 27 and 34 is his lowest finishes, so only 1 year lower than that egregious ADP that he's sitting at right now. So I think with a healthy Deshaun Watson and a healthy Amari Cooper, which he has mostly been in his career, and even he's shown he can do numbers with backups, which we know who his backup is, right? That's old Jameis Winston, and he loves to sling that ball. So I think the grass might even be greener if Deshaun Watson goes down again. But regardless, I think with both those guys healthy, he easily outperforms his ADP, where you guys have him ranked, and finishes right near that wide receiver 13 spot that I have him at.
Before we proceed,
I say, you guys have your work cut out for you.
Before we proceed, let me go and list some guys that Jacob has him ranked.
These aren't about other guys.
I'll let
Excuse me.
Hey,
this is about Amari Cooper.
Numbers mean something for a reason.
His turn.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Judge Cover Zero. I mean, he might have guys like Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, Drake London, Chris Olave, Deebo Samuel, Nico Collins, Devontae Smith, all behind Mr. Amari Cooper, just for reference. But Steven, please, we tore into you. Get him good.
So Andrew, this whole time I thought he was going to be talking about DK Metcalf. I was ready to come at with like a torch, and I was going to string Andrew or Jacob up. I did not know I was that low on Amari Cooper before Jacob said a word, because I can relate to these old wide receivers. I moved him up. And as Jacob talked, I moved him up a little bit more.
Aww.
He's already my wide receiver 15.
Stop it.
Right
guys, I can retire.
Andrew,
I was ready. Listen,
I do, please.
Now, if you want to talk about Jacob's ranking of DK Metcalf, I'm all game. I will draw blood.
We'll
But
save that for another day.
But I think Amari Cooper, I agree with you. The guy gets it done every year. Again, I feel like people get bored with Amari Cooper because he just, other than like when he won people probably
He's not flashy.
He probably won people a ton of underdog money last year with that Joe Flacco game where he scored like 50 points. But other than that, he just he does have some dud games here and there, and he lulls you into like a high-end wide receiver 2 finish typically. But the guy always gets it done. He's always ranked too low. I can't really disagree with what Jacob's saying. I do agree Jacob's too high usually on Browns players. He is a bit of a homer. I'm not going to listen. If you want me to throw some shade at Jacob, yes, he has half of the Browns roster on his dynasty team. But
not true.
I have to agree with him. I just ended up putting him right behind Chris Olave in my rankings, right above Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Cooper Kupp, some of those guys. So I'm in agreement here.
All right. I'm supposed to be sitting here. My defending lawyer partner just got up, walked to the other table, and started arguing for the other side. But it's okay. I got this.
You know what? We're gonna throw out this case.
Excellent. Let's scrap this and talk some DK Metcalf. No, I am not a quitter. Let me explain myself.
Andrew, just say he's old. That's all you got. It's your only argument.
Well, I mean, he is 30
Objection.
is really old. But however, just going over it, I recently helped Steven with a post about talking about some guys who will have a target share go down, and mostly focused on dudes who added some more competition. Now, he didn't add anyone who's absolutely incredible, but we did see at the end of last year, one guy, David Njoku, really became a target hog. He really became a spotlight, a guy that a lot of people had their eyes on. And without even going into his targets, we know David Njoku's good. But behind that, we had Cedric Tillman, David Bell, Elijah Moore. That was absolutely nothing. You got two people to look at, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and now, hey, Broncos fans, hey, Casey, I think you root for that woeful, I'll be really nice, wonderful orange team in Denver. And Steven, you yourself, a former first-round pick from the Denver Broncos, has plopped himself down on the Cleveland Browns, signed an extension, and one guy, Jacob, the main defendant here, has even said might be in for a good season. So now Jerry Jeudy is there to actually end up taking some targets away that Amari Cooper wasn't dealing with before. And no one ever mentioned, where did Amari Cooper rank last year? Oh, why at the wide receiver 20 in PPR leagues? That's far away from wide receiver 13. Now go forth and add himself target competition. Why? And then anyway, don't worry, the offense will be good enough that it'll get past it. Deshaun Watson, ready to start a full year. Healthy, he took the year off so he could get back fully. Deshaun Watson ranked 65th in PFF passing grade his first year in Cleveland. Oh, don't worry, guys, it got better. He doubled his rank, went all the way up to 32nd in PFF passing grade the year prior when he was playing well. Well, friends, we're going into another year. I don't see Deshaun Watson coming back to it. I think he's got his mind other places like the massage table, and now he has more people to consider.
Judge.
Come on, are you even paying attention?
Yeah,
Hey,
Judge,
listen,
what the hell?
Andrew,
That's
Andrew.
slander.
Listen, buddy, if you're going to bring the massage table into this conversation,
Into this courtroom.
into this courtroom, you got to be wearing a robe like me.
Yeah.
I thought you, as a current robe wearer, and mind you, people on YouTube, that's a bathrobe, not a judge's robe. I thought you would be concerned.
You know what? We're throwing this. Your whole argument. You get out of here. You get.
I don't even have to give final remarks. I can just
No. Ruling in the favor of Amari Cooper. He is wide receiver 13. Andrew, get out of my courtroom. You make me sick. Our host left. We can't hear anybody.
The key part here is the guys that Amari Cooper is behind, and I totally am all for this Amari Cooper hype. I really do think he is deserving of some of it. I do mind.
Let me see here. Sorry, wide receiver 28. I was just making sure you were still behind his wide receiver hype.
Because here's the guys who I have to say are going to do better than him. Are Malik Neighbors, who's an outstanding rookie with no target competition around him, and he's up there with Marvin Harrison.
Where are those targets going to go?
All the Malik Neighbors. And then we have our guy Christian Kirk, who was a wide receiver 1 with Trevor Lawrence the last time. T. Higgins, probably just a better receiver with a better quarterback. And
number 2.
It's just the dudes ahead of him I think had more upside is my main argument. Judge, cover 0. I think I know where you lean here.
I don't know why you're even asking. You didn't even bring up better points.
But I bring love, and I tried my best. My defending lawyer got up and walked to the other table.
Yeah, that was bullshit. Bullshit crap, Steven. You don't pull that kind of stunt right in the middle of his argument, whatever they call him. All right, but ruling in the favor of Amari Cooper. Sorry, you're on your own.
I did, Andrew, move him down 2 spots.
I do think it's concerning. He was wide receiver 20. I didn't even realize he was that low.
But you know what? When you said it, I actually kind of went, was he? And I actually was looking it up as you were talking.
17 in points per game last year.
We can play the points per game with a lot of guys. Yeah. But that's where he finished. It's what he played. He's old. But to your point, if Amari Cooper finished the year as the wide receiver 13, I would not be shocked.
By the way, I also... some shrapnel. I also moved Malik Neighbors up a little bit too. Just as I was doing it.
We won't have arguments with Malik Neighbors. I like him. I just don't like Daniel Jones.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Drew Lock, guys, get ready for Drew Lock. All right. Well, now speaking of again being on my own, because of course Steven jumped sides.
You
and
jumped just in time, Steve.
Oh, hey, yeah, I might have to stay over on this side.
No.
Order.
No. Yes, okay. I got a guy here. All right. Playing for a team that a lot of people are excited for. Guys, Nico Collins. I don't even think I have to go deep into this. Gentlemen, look at the numbers on the screen. Steve's rank of Mr. Nico Collins, wide receiver 1 for the Houston Texans. Steven has him ranked at wide receiver 17.
Judge objection. He has him at
well,
wide
he may
receiver
have got
11.
moved, Andrew. Like, let me go to.
No.
Andrew has him at wide receiver 11.
Get out of here. This is you're standing firm for the crime that you committed. It's
No, Andrew. He got lower, I think, is what I'm saying. I mean, I had to move up Amari. And then I had to move up Malik Neighbors. So things are happening here.
Anyway.
And I may have moved, Keenan up just a little bit more just to get it.
Anyway.
Hey, Steven, stop clicking things. All right? You have to stand with what you started the podcast at.
Hands above the table.
It's my podcast.
Silence, hit the gavel. Get this man quiet as I proceed. All right. Anyway, while you guys are ranking the guy who was the wide receiver 20 last year as the wide receiver 13, I'm simply trying to go out here and rank the guy who was the wide receiver 12 as yet again the wide receiver 12, entering his second year in tandem with one of the greatest rookie quarterbacks we have ever seen, Mr. CJ Stroud, who's gaining wild popularity, doing amazing things like sumo wrestling very large men over in the far lands. But Nico Collins is only going to get better. I don't see why it'd get worse.
Case, is it called the Far Lands?
I had to come up with something.
How far away are those lands, Jacob?
I didn't realize what country he was in when he was doing it. So
the Far East.
You said
Far East is what you want to say.
If you said sumo, it's Japan.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Far East.
Anyway.
You lost some points.
CJ Stroud is an incredible quarterback. And last season, Nico Collins was the wide receiver 12 on only a 22% target share. In my projections, I actually went through and looked through these numbers and plugged them in and said, hey, this is where I think they'll land. This is what I think that guy will pass for. Nico Collins didn't play a full season with CJ Stroud. He missed a couple of games last season, and he still finished very well. And this year, I have him projected at 20.5% target share. That still puts him as a top 12 wide receiver in my rankings because his quarterback is so good. I don't need Deshaun Watson to throw my guy enough passes in order to get the job done. My guy was getting 100. I was just short of 110 targets last season and was still a wide receiver 1. So can he just get those again? Yes. Does Stephon Diggs steps in scares me? Absolutely no, it does not. Stephon Diggs is finding his way on over here. But again, if I can just get a 20.5% target share from Mr. Nico Collins, Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs can live in harmony as the wide receiver 2 and 3. Nico Collins is the downfield threat, getting the efficient targets and lots of touchdowns as a big body wide receiver. That's going to add up quick. His pace with Tank Dell last season. Don't you dare begin saying, oh, well, Tank Dell missed some time last year. Blah, 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 blah.
Whose voice is that?
He did miss time.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to verify the voice that you just used.
I try to go for like how I envisioned my younger siblings always talking to me in the past visions when they were trying to get me in trouble. That was the voice I see in my head.
Okay, if you could refrain from using that voice while you're exclaiming at the same time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Judge, sir. Anyway, speaking of small people, Tank Dell last season, he was he missed some time, and that's what people are saying. Nico Collins is in big trouble because Tank Dell is going to come back and now steal all these targets with Stephon Diggs. Well, his pace.
Hey, you're doing it again. I'm going to need you. I'm going to need you really back off.
Strike two. I think strike two.
I think I'm just trying to prepare for Steven and Jacobs. How did you get balloons on your screen?
I know.
Anyway.
Hey, order. Jacob, no balloons.
Whoa. Anyway,
I learned some stuff.
His pace last season with Tank Dell was still the wide receiver 12. With Tank Dell side by side, his pace of points per game was the wide receiver 12. Without Tank Dell, so if for some reason he can get more targets out of this season, he was the wide receiver 6. So he's going to perform at this level anyway, with or without Tank Dell. Tank Dell grabbing huge target share. I envision everyone's target share dropping, Diggs, Dell, and Nico Collins, but the efficiency is going to hold true even if that happens. And guys, what happens if Stephon Diggs takes a step back? Nico Collins could explode in year 2 with CJ Stroud, as we expect improvement. It was one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen from CJ Stroud, but still a rookie season nonetheless. What if he just goes out and throws for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns? Everyone's going to feast. That's in the range of outcomes. And I can't believe these gentlemen are ranking these wide receivers who don't have such a high outcome ahead of him. I rest my case.
Jacob,
who wants to jump in?
I don't even know. Well, first of all, I would say, do you want to start, Jacob? But every argument Andrew just made for Nico Collins was every argument he made against Keenan Allen.
Well, here's the
I don't
difference. He's the best wide receiver there.
Stephon Diggs, they add.
Also,
it's fine for Nico. Nico's fine. They added, Stephon Diggs. No big deal. But Keenan Allen goes with DJ Moore, and it's like, oh, God, watch out.
No big deal. Stephon Diggs, who was 6th in targets last year, 9th in target share, and 12th in target rate, who effect on Nico.
And he brought up the fact that Keenan Allen had no target competition before. And he brought up the fact that, who was the other one we were talking? Amari Cooper. They added Jerry Jeudy. He brings up Jerry Jeudy, Casey. He brings up Jerry Jeudy as added competition as a worry for Amari Cooper. Yet Stephon Diggs being added to the Texans, no big deal. It's just Stephon Diggs. He's probably washed because he's 30.
That's old. I am so angry right now. Jerry Jeudy?
I mean, it went from Elijah Moore to Jerry Jeudy.
The hypocrisy in Andrew's argument is so blatantly obvious. I can't believe he doesn't see it. Now, Casey, I don't know if you know, like, you try to rent a place to somebody, you can't advertise to an age group. It's called ageism. You can't say, oh, this is good for, young couples or something like that. Andrew is a ageist. Anybody turns 27, he doesn't like them anymore. He thinks they start to stink.
They smell bad.
What's happening here with Keenan. I think it's what's happening with Amari Cooper, because Nico Collins, who had probably the most competition, the biggest name in target competition added to the team, no big deal. Doesn't even move the needle for him.
Might I cite that he only needs a 20% target share to get where I think he needs to go?
If you think CJ Stroud's going to throw for 5,000 yards, then that's.
Oh, I didn't say I think he was.
You said it was in the range of outcomes.
It's in the range of outcomes. We have to see it. I don't think it's going to happen. My projections say he's only going to throw for, I think I have him like 4,300. But with as many touchdowns as we expect him to throw for with that many yards, I have him at 4,600, actually. I'm very bullish. However, that's enough to get it done. You don't need the target share. Guys, here's the thing. Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen at this stage of their career, they're not target alphas. And they aren't able to make the most with the targets like Mr. Nico Collins, having CJ Stroud throwing him the ball. That's the entire difference here.
Now, you do realize, now I like Nico Collins. This is not a knock on Nico Collins.
Well, you're right.
But I also love Stephon Diggs. Yeah. I feel like you're going off an 8-game sample size to just say Stephon Diggs is washed versus a 5-year stretch with Josh Allen where he was amazing. Yes, he's probably not the same wide receiver at age 30 as he is at age 27. But again, you're acting like he's this dusty old, can't get anything done wide receiver.
Let me ask you guys, how do you see the target share distribution breaking down between the three? Because I actually have Stephon Diggs getting the most targets on the team. They're just going to be out of the slot because you're not moving Nico Collins out of the X. You're not going to have Tank Dell, who's a great field stretcher, move into the slot. I mean, you might, but it's not going to be Nico Collins missing the high value targets. It's going to be either Stephon Diggs or Tank Dell. What do you see this target distribution turning out as?
Well, another thing, when I look at Nico Collins' stats, he had a 73% catch rate. I don't know how sustainable that is, especially what you're talking about, the way he's playing on the outside. Mike Evans had a 59%, probably something like 50-some% catch rate.
Baker Mayfield.
Did Baker Mayfield not have a good season last year?
Yeah, because he threw it to really good wide receivers. Imagine a good quarterback and a good receiver. That's how you get the wide receiver.
I know. I think I like CJ Stroud. I was actually looking at a stat recently that he threw, I think, the second most uncatchable passes last year or something like that. I'd have to look at it again. That he was lucky he didn't actually end up with more interceptions, because that was the impressive thing with CJ Stroud, is he threw very few interceptions. And it's, again, I do think, he was a rookie and he did amazing. He had a great season. But he still only threw 23 touchdown passes. Like, you have to throw for Nico, for all these guys to do well, and as well as you claim Nico's going to do. I mean, he is going to have to throw close to 40 touchdown passes, I think. Nico Collins had 8 touchdowns. Now, that's not an insane amount by any means, but would we be shocked if he ended up with 5 next year?
He did miss 2 games. CJ Stroud missed 2 games, and he threw for the 6th most passing touchdowns by a rookie ever.
The 6th, is that good?
6th most ever, missing 2 games. I mean, that's pretty
number
good.
1.
Yes, that's good.
Well, Daniel Jones threw
1.
more than him, and he played in 13 games his rookie year.
Yeah, that is a weird number that I saw.
Now all of a sudden, when you bring in Daniel Jones, it's a weird
Justin
number.
Herbert threw
Peyton
31.
Manning,
Baker Mayfield threw 26. I mean,
Peyton Manning's ahead of him. Russell Wilson, Baker had an incredible season. There's a couple outliers, but are you saying that's the harder take? Is that CJ Stroud is going to be Daniel Jones and Baker Mayfield?
No, what I mean is, I just think he's going to be good. They also had how do you say that? They had a losing team schedule last year. They're going to have a better schedule this year. I'm in on CJ Stroud. I'm in on this offense. I just think you're not crediting Stephon Diggs enough. And I think that you're overlooking things for Nico Collins that you knocked on Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper.
Judge, can I say something? I don't think these guys like Tank
I'm
Dell.
sorry, I said no.
I didn't hear it. It cut out.
No, you can't. No talking from Jacob.
Yeah, you also love Tank Dell, Andrew. Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, I think Tank Dell is the one that's being underrated the most here. That guy missed basically 7 games because it was right at the beginning of the other one that his stupid coach put him in.
You need him in those goal line packages. Come on, Jacob.
So stupid.
Have you seen Tank Dell? I mean,
he's a tank?
This is going to be his career. He's going to miss 6 weeks every season.
If that's the case, maybe. But Nico had the lowest expected fantasy points among these 3 guys last year. He outperformed what his projections were saying he was going to do. And after that bye week, when Tank Dell got back, and rookies take a little while to develop, especially at receiver. After that bye week, he was better at Nico in every category before he got hurt at the goal line. So I think Tank Dell's a really good receiver. Diggs is coming in, and he's a really good receiver. Nico's great, but he has his one breakout year 3. His first 2 years in the league showed nothing with terrible quarterback play, granted, but I'm proceeding with caution, especially at that ADP there for Mr. Nico.
Yeah,
I actually pulled it up, Jacob. Nico Collins was 50 points over expectation, according to Pro Football Focus.
Thank you, Steve. That was nice. That was a nice little back and forth there. That was good.
These guys were obviously colluding before they flop side, and now they're in locked arms, supporting each other with stats.
Almost 4 points per game. Just to bring that up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just Nico Collins, 4th ranked player per PFF last year. Just thought that I'd throw that out there real quick. That's way ahead of Stephon Diggs. Judge, what's your final ruling here?
Oh, I really wanted to side with you there, Andrew, but the Rippy Rhodes combination made some very, very good arguments. I actually think Steve's rank is perfect, right at wide receiver 17. The range of outcomes, you talked about that about CJ Stroud. Well, for Nico Collins, it's wide receiver 36 to wide receiver 12. You have him at his ceiling, sir. Now get out of my courtroom.
Wow.
I went 3-0, boys. I'm feeling good.
Oh, we got to bring up somebody else. We can't let Jacob go 3-0.
All right, hold on. I'm going to move Nico up just a little bit. I moved him way down.
I have him. I did move him up to 22, so it's a
that's
little
where I got
higher
him.
than me.
Wide receiver 22.
Look at that. Steve and I are. This is great.
I think the biggest thing to take away from this for everyone is there's this glob of wide receivers that you can really see it in Underdog Best Ball whenever you're drafting on there. Speaking of which, get on Underdog, use promo code GUIDES, get yourself a draft guide in as well as a deposit bonus. Play some Underdog, and you'll see on there's a clump of wide receivers from like the wide receiver
Clump's
10.
a good word. Yeah.
Yeah,
Clump,
that's a great word.
They're just all mashed together. And it goes from the wide receiver 12 to like the wide receiver 25-ish. And all of these guys are just kind of in this bucket together. And you could really hash out just about any of the dudes in that group. So,
I mean, you're to your point, yes, because you got Nico Collins, well, in my rankings, going 10 spots behind Drake London. And I don't know. I mean, we want Drake London to do good, but would we be shocked if Nico did better? To Andrew's point, there's just a mishmash of just like
a glob. It was a glob.
Yeah, it was a glob. Sorry,
bucket of glob.
Oh, I like a glob.
Yeah.
I have to bring up one more point on Tank and Nico because it's something only
Jesus.
it's something only Fantasy Guides does. I know. But this is a fun stat that only we do here at Fantasy Guides. It's the old missing points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Tank had 38 missing points last year. Nico had 24. So just fun little stat there. And Tank missed a lot of time. So
yeah.
Overruled.
Points on the board.
There's just so much to hash out between those guys, and I love it, and I really do think all of us did adjust their rankings after this, and I can see them moving on our screen because there is so much variability between those guys. So in your drafts, I really think it means when you're going through these middle rounds where these receivers are going, and I guess it's not really even middle on underdog, but your home leagues will be middle. This is a really good portion of the draft. Wide receiver, where the wide receiver 12 through like 24 goes, to throw in some tight ends. The elite tight end this year is going to be really valuable. I think there's some awesome guys there that could really break leagues. An elite quarterback is really good to go in this range. Anthony Richardson, a CJ Stroud, a Lamar Jackson, a Pat Mahomes. And so I think take advantage of that, because where I'd say Nico Collins needs to go in the 3rd round, Steven's saying it go in the 5th round. And honestly, I can get with it. I can see his mindset there. Do you guys kind of agree with that standpoint, is how to use this information?
Yeah. And I'll be interested in like a month or two when Sleeper's ADP starts getting updated more and we look at redraft as opposed to best ball, because strategy changes a little bit. We'll get to see what it looks like in those formats. And I think numbers will adjust a good bit in favor of what we've been saying.
I will say, Andrew, through our conversations, he wasn't even part of this, but DK Metcalf's taken a hit with all the movement of my sheet since we've been talking. Man. DK just... It's not looking good for DK.
This guy. All you talked about was size with Keenan Allen, and you just knocking DK Metcalf. It blows me.
We seriously, no, we've been talking about this. The 3 of us need to get on a call and do like a rankings. We could spend an hour just talking wide receiver through our rankings because, like Andrew said, it's a glob. There's a glob there.
And I'm going to promise you guys, go check our text chains. We hashed this out and like over text the way it sounds in this call. Like it is aggressive. It is stats everywhere, and it is so nerdy, and I love it.
And that's reflected in our draft guide.
Absolutely. It is going to be variable, and we'll get you the best opinions. Honorable Judge Casey, do you have any last mementos for our audience here before I take us out of here?
Maybe a little garnish on the top is what you're asking for.
I'm not going to eat it.
On the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, just so you guys, everybody listening, Andrew did terrible in this. I just want everybody to notice that.
I thought so too.
He didn't really support any of his arguments all that well. There was a lot of, range of outcome.
It was
he's really good. I like him a lot. Yeah. And
I thought he brought up good stats. He just, if you were just hearing the stats, you're like, that actually made a lot of sense. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. You'd do that, but then like his stats seemed to be counteracting his other arguments, and it felt a little hypocritical.
I'm ready to be a lawyer. Put me out there. I'll make anything fit my narrative. And well, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us, Casey, and being the judge. I'll get us out of here. Please follow the page at Fantasy Guides, our main account on Instagram. Go to fantasyguides.com, pick you up a draft guide, get on Underdog, get that draft guide for free by just getting yourself signed up there and making a deposit. You can follow Jacob at FGRhodesFF. You can find Casey at Cover0. Really easy to find. Don't even try to find my handle. It's something with my last name at Toysher_FG. You'll never spell it right anyway.
Never. I still don't. When I look to, look for you on Venmo so I can pay you, Andrew. I never can find you.
You will never, ever find it.
Now, how convenient.
Say goodbye to the friends at home, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Happy 4th, everybody.